Evening peeps, good evening everyone. How's everyone doing? Hopefully you're all doing okay and staying safe in this crazy weather. This wind is mad. Honestly, it really is. What's it called again? Storm Eunice. Mental. I've seen some footage of buildings just being torn to shreds by this wind. Wind! Boy, I can't lie to you, I've seen some funny stuff as well though. Like people like being blown. I shouldn't laugh, but it is quite funny. People like being blown away and shit. So yeah, look, be safe out there anyway. Also, don't forget, hit that subscribe button if you guys are new to the channel. Really helps the channel. All right, we're going to go through a few stories. We're going to focus on Amir Khan quite a lot in this video. But before we do that, massive shout out again to 888 Sport. You guys know that I was in LA last weekend. Feels like, I can't believe it's last weekend. I can't believe 7 days or 8 days by the time you watch this video have passed. Can't believe it. But we was out there for the Super Bowl, me and Rory Jennings, just to see whether or not it was the greatest show on earth. Part 2 of our journey to LA is now up on 888 Sports NFL channel. The link is in the description. Make sure you go and watch the video. It is fun. Make sure you leave a comment as well. Share and like the video. It really helps me. It was great to be out there with 888 Sport. They really did look after us. And I can't wait to the next trip. Who knows? What could the next trip be? It could be like the World Cup in Qatar. It could be that, right? So yeah, big shout out to 888 Sport. And thank you to all of you as well that have gone over to that channel and left a comment, because they have told me about how much people are loving me. So thank you so much to everyone. All right, let's focus. We'll see if there's any other news after this, but let's focus on Amir Khan. Obviously, Amir Khan got beat yesterday, or again, I'm filming this. What time is it? I'm filming this at 10 o'clock in the evening. So Amir Khan got beat yesterday by Kell Brook in what was a one-sided beatdown as well. It really was. I mean, look, we've been waiting 10 years for that fight. The build-up didn't disappoint, did it? The build-up was fantastic. The build-up was as good as it would have been if the fight happened 10 years ago. It really was. Sold out AO Arena in Manchester. It was a spectacle. It really was. But in the end, the performance from Amir Khan was, considering how much he spoke before the fight, the performance was disappointing. Not just how much he spoke, but how much Bomac spoke, how much Terence Crawford spoke. The performance was disappointing from Amir Khan, but I don't want that to take away from what has been an outstanding career. It really has. I mean, some people might say that's an exaggeration because they'll look at Khan's record, and I think he's got 6 defeats. 5 of those have been by knockout, but I don't care. Khan's had an amazing career, really has. I mean, especially when you add in what he did as an amateur as well. Olympic silver medalist, World Junior gold medalist. Outstanding. It really has been an outstanding career. And you know what? Even more outstanding, because we clearly know what his Achilles heel is. Amir Khan, I don't want to say can't take a punch, because he can. I mean, he's been hit hard by some people, and he stayed up on his feet. Marcus Maidana cracked him a lot, and he stayed on his feet. But we know there is a chin issue there. So for him to go through his career with that and still do what he did, you've got to salute it. You really have to. I don't want to be one of those people that say things like, oh yeah, but he lost to this person, that person. I don't really care. As long as you have the fights, I'm invested in you. And I've been fully invested in Khan's career since he turned pro after Athens 2004, especially considering that, you know, he's had a lot of stop-starts in there. So, you know, he's gone on a run and then tasted defeat, but then he's had to rebuild himself back up again, gone on another run, defeat, build himself back up again. That's not easy to do. That's not easy to do. You get some fighters where they lose once. That's kind of it. That's kind of it, right? Mentally, they just check out. I mean, Prince Nassim Hamed, alongside Nigel Benn, is my favourite fighter from the UK. I mean, he lost to Barrera. He had that one fight after, but he was done. Like, mentally, he couldn't take the defeat. Amir Khan's had to kind of, in front of all the media's eyes, he's grown up, obviously, with the media around him. He's had to kind of rebuild his career so many times, and he's done it. He was a superstar over here when we kind of needed one as well. Yes, he came out of Athens 2004 when there was a lot of good fighters around, but they were starting to come to the end. You think of Lennox Lewis's last fight was 2003. So that was it for Lennox Lewis and the heavyweight domination, at least over here anyway, until obviously the AJs and the Furies, etc. But Lennox Lewis was done in 2003. Joe Calzaghe was done in 2008. Ricky Hatton was kind of done really in 2007-8 after the Floyd fight and the Manny Pacquiao fight. So we were looking for that next star, and Amir Khan came and was that next star. And let's also not forget, what he did for Asians in his country when it comes to boxing as well. I mean, the history of Asians boxing in this country isn't vast at all. Amir Khan was a shining light for a lot of young Asian boxers to take up the sport. Not necessarily Prince Nassim Hamed, but Amir Khan. So he did a hell of a lot. And then you go through his career. I've got his box rec here in front of me. You know what shocked me? I was just going through his box rec. The biggest thing, of all the things that shocked me, was when he lost to Bradis Prescott. Bad knockout. Amir Khan was back in the ring against Ocean Fagan. I remember that fight. He was back in the ring. How long later? 3 months later. That shocks me. Because if that were to happen to anyone now, especially a rising star now, you ain't seeing him for maybe a year. Amir Khan was back in the ring 3 months later. He had that fight against Ocean Fagan. Then he had that fight against Barrera. Obviously, look, I passed it, Barrera. I get that. But you got to credit him from even coming back from that Prescott knockout. Prescott literally poleaxed him. But anyway, back in the ring. A fight that doesn't get enough respect on Amir Khan's resume. Like when people talk about Amir Khan's wins, and look, rightly so, there are some good wins on there. One that needs to get a lot more respect put on it is Kotelnik. Like that is an underrated win. It really is. Doesn't get a lot of respect talked about it because when everyone talks about Amir Khan as a 140-pound fighter, bear in mind that was Amir Khan's first fight at 140. When everyone talks about Amir Khan as a 140 fight, everyone immediately says, Paulie, I do it. Maidana, Zab Judah, everyone says that run that he had. The run he had, it all started with Kotelnik. That was a very, very good win. So then look, he had wins against Salita, Paulie, Maidana, Paul McCluskey, who was the European champion at the time, Zab, and then came another roadblock. And that roadblock was first Lamont Peterson. It's a fight that I thought Khan won. Lamont won it by split decision. I know you guys might remember the issue with the judges ringside, and then he got poleaxed by Danny Garcia. I remember the build-up well. I didn't know too much about Danny then. I mean, I'd known of Danny and the record, but I didn't know too much about his dad, who was very loud. And I remember thinking, oh, Khan, just knock out this guy. Just because of his dad, just knock him out. And when Khan lost, I was like, oh my God. Again, surprised me. But again, you know what surprised me after that knockout? Khan was in the ring 5 months later. In fact, 4.5 months later. It just surprises me because with boxing now, like when someone suffers a really big defeat, you don't see them for ages, or at least it feels like you don't see them for ages. Khan was back on the saddle, fought Carlos Molina, fought Julio Diaz, and then got the second win. So there's been about 3 or 4 different versions of Amir Khan. And this next version was the one that beat Louis Collazo and Devin Alexander. And for me, as much as the early Khan, so the faster Khan, the speed Khan against Paulie and Zab was, I think, the Khan that I think was the best 140-pounder in the world. This version of Khan, this version here, the Louis Collazo, the Devin Alexander, I think that's the best Khan ever. I said that. I interviewed Khan. So I went to, Khan was at the opening of like a burger joint. I think it was a burger or milkshake joint. And me and Ryan, who started the channel Box Talk, had just started kind of getting out, doing some bits to camera. I remember we saw Michelle Joy Phelps then. I remember thinking, geez, who's that? I was so excited to see people. I was out there. This was fresh. Again, this was 2013-14. And I went to go and see Khan at this milkshake opening. And I was like, that's the best win of your career. Like the Louis Collazo one. I said, you just looked fantastic. Like he looked really, really good. Looked really strong at the weight as well. I thought 147 just suited him. I thought Khan looked spectacular. And that was the Khan, if you remember, that was chasing Floyd. That was the Khan where some people, not me, but some people thought that Amir Khan could have beaten Floyd Mayweather. And that's when Floyd chose Marcus Maidana, and the rest is history. But that Khan there was fantastic. And it's that period then when I think we should have seen Khan versus Brook. Like when Khan realized he couldn't get the Floyd Mayweather fight, it should have been Khan Brook. Instead, Khan went to face Algieri. Now, as much as Algieri himself was a former world champion, having beaten Ruslan Provodnikov, at that time, Brook Khan's a bigger fight than fucking Brook Algieri. It is, and that's where I got a bit angry with Khan. That's where my anger sort of grew for Amir Khan, because I thought it was a perfect time. And look, I get it. If you're chasing the Floyd fight and that's close, then I get it. But once you realise you couldn't get the Floyd or the Manny fight, I think you should have maybe come back to England and fought Kell Brook. Because Kell Brook at the time had a world title after beating Sean Porter. That was the perfect time. Both at 147, no excuses. What Khan did, I think, ended Khan's career. And that's when he fought Saul Alvarez. So yes, he had knockouts defeats before. Prescott was a big knockout defeat, but Khan's a lot younger. You recover from them. Danny Garcia, knockout defeat, but you recover from them. Going up and fighting Canelo at, I think it was 155 pounds, madness. Honestly, madness. And that knockout there, it was very similar to when Ricky Hatton got poleaxed by Manny Pacquiao. It's the kind of knockout defeat you simply do not recover from. You don't. Like, you just don't. Honestly, you don't recover from it. And he never has recovered from that, has he? Like, that's when Khan, for me, was done. And look, it's funny because that was 2016 and here we are in 2022 and Khan just had a fight. In fact, you think about it, Khan was only 29 then. So still very, very young. Still, in terms of age, at least, a lot left in the tank. But in terms of miles on the clock, that it takes years off you, that fight. And if you look at his performances against Vargas, where he got put down and he took Vargas all the way, and then obviously Terence Crawford, Billy Dibb, and then Kell Brook. But look, I mean, when you look at some of the names, and look, I'll go through them again, that Khan has fought, win or lose. I guess you can add Kell to it now. Kell Brook, Terence Crawford, Vargas. So at the time, he only had 3 defeats. Vargas, a decent name. People might laugh at that, but Vargas was decent. Canelo, Algieri, former world champion. Devon, former world champion. Collazo, former world champion. Danny Garcia, Lamont Peterson, Zab Judah, Marcus Maidana, Paulie Malignaggi. Again, Kotelnik, underrated win. Barrera, but not the right Barrera. That Barrera then had like 70 plus fights. Braders Prescott, who was just frightening. I mean, that's some resume. That's some resume. So look, if it is it, and I hope it is it, incredible. Has made millions, become world champion, 2-time world champion. Big respect. Enough respect for Khan. Enough respect. I don't want my love for Kell to kind of just make people think I don't respect Khan. I do. I respect him massively. I really do. But I just hope that's it for Khan now because it's been a solid career. A quick couple of results to go over in some news. Jaime Munguia beat Demetrius Ballard in 3 rounds. I kind of said it was going to be a one-sided fight. Obviously, Munguia at 160 chasing some of the big fights, just like a few people that we know, or maybe not in Chris Eubank Jr., but Munguia is there. Munguia will fight anyone. I think that's maybe the difference. I think Munguia would fight anyone. Like Munguia right now would go 168 and fight anybody. Anybody. There's a killer in there. There really is. What's that now for Munguia? 39 fights, 31 knockouts, 25 years of age. Fucking hell. Jesus Christ. Ryan Garcia has opened up about his split from Reynoso. He says he didn't have time to work 100%. I don't know if I agree with that. But look, Reynoso's cash cow and his golden goose is Canelo. But it looked like every time we saw sort of footage in the gym, it looked like everyone was getting fair treatment. Like Canelo is not going to fight around the same time. They're smart in terms of how they schedule fights. Canelo will pick a time, or sorry, you have to pick your time around Canelo's fights, and then you'll get 100%. You'll get 100% of Eddie Reynoso, but I don't know. A bit here from Khan. It said, admits retirement is near. It could be the time. I couldn't get in the groove. He just needs to announce it, doesn't he? He needs to announce it. Kell Brook saying here, no disrespect to Khan, but it felt so easy in there. It looked easy. It really did. A bit here on Tasha Jonas. Tasha Jonas beat Chris Namus yesterday to win the WBO world title. Obviously, Tasha jumping up, I think 2 or 3 weight classes. I've been I'm a big believer in female boxing. I think it's fantastic, but yesterday doesn't help. That's a world title fight, and it gets stopped in the 2nd round. The ref stops it far too early. You know what it is? And I said this on the live. It's that you don't see many stoppages in female boxing. It normally goes to points. So when a female does get hit, I feel like referees are still not understanding that these girls can take that punishment. Like, stop looking at them like that. They're fighters. So I think sometimes refs just jump in thinking, oh, I don't want to see her get hit anymore. Stop. She was okay. It's a world fucking title fight, man. What is this? if that was the male equivalent, you're letting that go on. You're letting that go on. You asked them to come to you. She walked to him. Her gloves are up. Let's go. But yeah, I don't know. I wonder how Tasha feels about that. Look, Tasha's, she's been close a couple of times. Katie Taylor, Terry Harper. But I wonder how she feels about winning a world title that way. I'm not sure. The lastminute.com opponent, the ref stopping it early. I'm not sure. Jorge Linares lost in Russia, didn't he? Got stopped in the final round. I tweeted that should be that for Linares. Look, a freeweight world champion. He's had some tough fights. I was going to say it's his age. He's 37, which isn't necessarily that old, especially now with, strength and conditioning and technology. It's not that old. But the problem for him is that he's been in some brutal fights. I was at the O2. I think that was one of my first ever press accredited fights. And I remember seeing him against Kevin Mitchell, and that was brutal. That was years ago. You know how many brutal fights he's been in since then? He never makes it easy. It's always got to be a war, and hopefully someone saves him for himself because, yeah, he's done. He's done. Yeah, we'll see what happens with him, but there shouldn't be no more Jorge Linares. There shouldn't be. Again, great career. No shame in calling it quits now. What else have we got? Anything else of interest? I think that's it, guys. This was more on Amir Khan. Again, my respect to him. Fantastic champion, fantastic warrior. But it's time now, isn't it? But what a great career. Peace and love.